Hello and welcome. Today we will be learning about cell fill or color, font and color, bold and underline of words or characters, cell borders, and more. You will notice today we're using the same project management workbook from the prior video. To go over the workbook generally quickly, you'll notice in the top left corner we have project prepared by and date, not necessarily important for this video. However, generally in a corporate environment or a professional setting, you want to list out as much information in a succinct manner as you can. So with this is where you would generally put the project you're working on, who prepared it, and also the date. You'll also notice there's things like company name, the project name again, and the project details here in the actual workbook, along with the steps. Sometimes it's called objectives, the sub-steps, because very rarely is it just one step. Often there's several steps included in a particular step. General information that can be filled in, comments, notes, other things, and then due dates and date completed. So in order to demonstrate how we get there, I'm going to jump over to this screen to show you without any formatting. This is generally what it looks like. So you look at this and you'll say this doesn't look very great. And you're right, it doesn't. However, if you jump between the two, it's actually the same information. So how do we make this look like this? Well, first, let's talk about cell fill or color. Generally speaking, there's going to be an approved color for your company, or another rule of thumb is to just use your company colors. If your company color is red, use a red that's close, if not the company provided red. Let's say your company is blue. Say it's kind of a deeper, darker blue. Come up here, find this blue. So again, highlight the cell that you're using, go into the fill color, hit the drop down, and it'll have all the colors you could possibly want. If you're picky and you want more, you can come down here and pick more colors, and you can find some obscure color that isn't exactly listed, or you can even type in these dimensions that they have. Generally speaking, these are the colors you'll want to use. Say you work for a company that's blue, or your school is blue, or for whatever reason, the project you're working on, you like the color blue. Here we are. We choose the blue. Next, let's talk about font and color. So font is relatively subjective, right? Different people like different fonts. Certain companies have approved fonts that you should use. Generally speaking, if there isn't a font that's provided to you by a professor or a school or a boss or a leader or a company marketing department, then what you should do is just choose a font that is generally easy to read. Aptus Narrow happens to be one of the selected fonts by Microsoft Excel. However, there are a bunch that you can choose from, right? Times New Roman, a lot of people use. Calibri, a lot of people use. You can simply scroll down and choose whichever one you want. Arial is another good one. Today, we're just going to leave it with Aptus Narrow. But that's how you change your font. You highlight whatever you want to change. You come up here to font. Here in your taskbar, you choose whichever font you like. Next, let's talk about color, font color. You notice this black and this blue kind of clash. Something you might think about doing is changing the font color. If the background is white, I generally suggest leaving it black. However, if your company has an odd color or your school has an odd color, kind of like this dark blue, it might be a good idea to change the color. An easy one is white. White shows up really good if black doesn't. So here, dark blue background, white words. Now you look at this and say, this doesn't still look super professional. How would I fix this even better? Something you can do is bold and or underline. So again, highlight whatever you want to, bold and underline. Come up here to your taskbar. The B is bold. The U with the underline is underline. So let's try it. Bold, it looks pretty good. Underline, yeah, that helps. I like that. Now you're saying the words are kind of small. Maybe we could go a little bit bigger to really emphasize the company name, the project name, and relevant project details. Sure. How you do that? Again, you highlight whatever you want to change the size of the font. You come up here to the font size, this little number next to the font that we selected. and then highlight whichever. See, 16 might be a little too big. 14 still fits. Now it's really calling out company name, project details. All right, I like that. Now we scroll down here. This is already gray, so this looks pretty good. But you come out a little farther and you say, well, this still looks a little confusing. Like this information is kind of wide. Like it's kind of hard if I just entered in something here and something over here. Like this looks odd, right? How do we fix this? Well, you can fix it with something called a border. Again, highlight whatever you want to add borders to. Then you come up here to this little symbol here. This looks like the grid lines for Excel. Currently it says no border. If you click this drop down, it'll give you every border you can think of, whichever borders you like. A good one to start with is just all borders. And just look at it. Say, does this look good? And I think this looks pretty good. You could probably stop here. But if you want to make it a little bit better than just all borders, you can also add what's called a thick outside border here. Now that adds a little extra thickness to the border line and really calls out what you're supposed to be looking to on the workbook, on this sheet. Additionally, if this is a separate section, the company name, project details, and then this row here is also separate, and then maybe all these steps together are a unit, are also separate, you can add thick borders like this by highlighting each of the general areas. And now there's a thick border between each, and it really breaks it up. So now you have this section here, which is kind of like the title, if you will, then the subsections for each of the titles, and then you have the actual work that's done to be put in here. So again, things we went over today: cell fill color, font and color, bold, underline, and borders. Generally speaking, if you set up your project management workbook like this, while there might be some nuance for your specific school or your specific workplace, generally speaking, this would be accepted in a professional environment.